Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness, a fast-paced, informative hour-long program dealing with physical, emotional, and mental health issues, consumer information, and money management, as well as the arts, theater, travel, entertainment, social, and civic events. Brought to you by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine Specialty Clinics, the Institute for Partnerships to Eliminate Health Disparities, the Newberry Opera House, the South Carolina Philharmonic, supplements manufacturer A.J. Lanigan, Leon Jones Insurance, and the Mitchell House and Gardens. And now, here's the host of Health, Wealth, and Happiness, Gary Posick.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Health, Wealth, and Happiness. Here's a rundown of today's program. My first guest joins us the fourth Wednesday of every month. He is Rusty Brizet, founder and CEO of ScoreNavigator.com. And today we're going to talk about how to overcome credit problems and what to do if they occur. From 1:30 to 1:45 each Wednesday, Don Schaefer is my guest. Don is a travel expert of some 40 years. Today he's going to talk about a sale on Disney trips if you book by this coming Monday. My final guest of the day will be Jean Gravy. She is with the Richland County Regulators. And we'll be talking about roller derby this Saturday night at the National Guard Armory at 1225 Bluff Road across from Williams-Brice Stadium. So I hope you'll stay tuned for the entire program. And welcome back, Rusty Brizet. And Rusty, it seems that most people, when they are told that they have a credit problem, it's always after the fact. It's catch-up. It's, oh, golly, now what do I do? What you're here to talk about today is what to do if you have credit problems, but even better, kind of a new concept, how to stay above the curve and prevent credit problems from occurring.
Absolutely, Gary, and thanks again for having me on the show. Gary, what we've talked about over the last several months, or really for about a year now, on steps that consumers can take to take care of an existing problem or a past problem. But we're in the process of completing programming, which actually gives an analysis on your credit profile, and based upon your financial information from the finance program that we've built that's in our products, we're going to be able to help you understand where you're going wrong in your not bad credit, but your bad habits that lead to credit issues. And that's what I guess we'll speak a little bit about today.
One of the things that I think probably causes bad credit is the abundance of credit cards. Rusty, there's not a month that goes by that either online or in the mail I receive opportunities from banking institutions and from lenders asking me to please take their credit card, usually with this kind of come on. No interest rates, 0% for the first, and if you read in fine prints, 3 months to 6 months, usually. And you can consolidate all of your previous back credit cards into this one and pay no interest for 6 months. And a lot of people hop all over those ads.
Absolutely. And then some of that, if they read the fine print on those offers, Gary, it says there's no interest for 6 months, but if you don't pay the transfer balance off completely, then you can go back and be charged interest for the remaining balance based upon the higher rate. So you got to be real careful on all the different offers. Now, remember those offers too, Gary, come from when people are doing promotional pulls on your credit. So they're seeing that you do have some credit established and you seem to have a good pay history to your current creditor, and then they are looking to see if you have a balance and how they can manipulate you to go over to them by filling out those offers. Now, they see that where your balances and stuff are, but at that point, you got a pre-approval until they look at what your financial situation is on how long you're going to be able to maintain a good status even with them with a new issue.
You know, what's interesting to me, we talked prior to Rusty coming on the show today, and one of the things that you mentioned to me that I never thought about in the past is when we pay on a monthly basis, when we pay our bills. And you gave an example of if we pay a bill, let's say on the mid-month, the 15th, but the company, they file their credit reports on the 12th. We're 3 days past when they file the report, so we have to catch up a whole nother month before it shows that we in fact paid our bill. Well, this is information that you know because you're in the business, you know that XYZ company, they file their credit information on the 12th. But I, as a customer of that company, that's not information that I know. Had I known that, I could have very easily paid that on the 11th, but I didn't know it because most of us, let's face it, Rusty, when do we pay our bills? The first of the month, the end of the month, or the middle of the month? I would think that probably holds true for, I'm going to guess, 90% of the people in the country.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the problem is, Gary, is that even though you pay it on the 15th, it might not be due to the 21st. But their report date is the 11th where they update their information to the credit bureau. And so even though you're paying early, you're not paying early enough. So one of the recommendations that we have to our clients is to contact their creditor and find out from them. Just ask them, hey, Gary, you're my credit holder. When do you report my payment history to the credit bureau? What date do you have? So that way we can make arrangements to make sure that I paid previous to that, so that way it's all updated correctly, so that way I know that my credit score is going to be maximized based upon my dealings with you. I want to take one step back too, Gary. I'm sorry. I want to go back into the transfer of balances from one account to another account and starting out with, 0%. Sometimes that stuff works good when you're consolidating, Gary, but we seem to have a bad habit. When you transfer that over to get a better rate to start with, what happens is you still have access now to 100% of your previous credit card. So do you not use it, or do you go, oh, now I can go spend more money on it? What do you think the majority of the people do?
I think that's exactly what they do. They spend more money on it.
They spend more money on it. That's exactly what they do, because that's part of our bad habits when it comes to dealing with credit. So transferring does have more of an adverse effect than it does on being able to save you, a little bit of a percentage point for a period of time.
And even if you take out a new credit card and you say, this is a rainy day credit card. See, Rusty, I don't have any plan of using it per se. I just think I've got a MasterCard, so I want a Visa card. It's just covering my base. I don't have no intention of using it, but it's got a $10,000 limit, and I'll just have that. See, I'll just have that just in case. And then I go to apply for a mortgage on a home or an automobile, and lo and behold, I'm paying a higher interest rate because I'm told, well, see, you have exposure of $10,000 on this Visa card. And I said, whoa, wait, no. See, I've never used that Visa card. Well, that's true, but see, you've exposed yourself to a $10,000 limit. A lot of people don't understand that. So explain that, if you will.
Well, whenever you go to get a loan for a mortgage loan, they calculate, of course, your credit score, and they go by a middle score. So they look at all three bureaus, and then they pick out the mid score. They get rid of the high, they get rid of the low. But they also work on your debt-to-income ratio. And so that's factored in on what appears on your credit. they don't take in as much consideration, what you're paying your cable company, those type of things. They're looking at what credit debt you have, what kind of income are you bringing in, and what percentage do we want to offer you based upon your credit score, so we make sure that you don't put yourself in a bad position. And those credit cards become not just a rainy day. They become a way of life, because you're used to paying out a certain amount of money every month. So if you're paying a certain amount of money and you're normally paying off the majority of your credit card debt each month, when you make those other frivolous charges and you go on and you put it in, all you're doing is taking away what you would normally pay that other guy a percentage, and you're using it to pay towards this new guy. And so your money is being spread out, and that definitely hurts your debt-to-income ratio when you want to go out and apply to either refinance your home or to purchase a new home.
One thing, too, I wanted to talk about before we got too far afield was going back to the date in which we make payments for, let's say, monthly bills, which we all have. And I'll follow through with the example so that we don't confuse anybody. You said the company that we're making a monthly payment to, they report to the credit bureaus on the 11th. And if we knew that, we would pay before the 11th, even though it may say on our statement it's not due until the 25th. So we're paying on the 15th thinking we're ahead of the game. Boy, this is going to look good on our credit. But we're behind almost a month because they're reporting on the 11th. We paid on the 15th, so we have to go through a whole another billing cycle before what we paid on the 15th shows up. Well, here's the deal. I don't know about you personally, but I'm going to tell you this straight up. Newsflash, I write very few checks. Well, you say, well, what do you mean? Well, these are automatic payments that come out of my checking account. I never see the money. It's just withdrawn from my checking account and goes directly in payment of my regular monthly payments. I never see that money. It just goes out of my checking account and it's paid to the utility companies, to whoever, because I know it's a monthly obligation that I have. So I don't write a check, and it comes out whatever day I say. So it's very easy for me to switch it from the 15th to the 10th. I don't care what day it comes out, as long as I know that it's coming out, and I have to deduct that from the amount of money I have in my checking account.
Absolutely, and that's the best way, too, Gary, in order to make sure somebody else isn't using your card by using the services that are online available. You can go into each one of your creditors, and you can look at it daily on your usage. I charged this. I went somewhere to eat. I did this. Is the right amount of money being reported as pending? Because you can look at pending. It doesn't have to already be a final transaction, and you can check that. And then you can match up what your withdrawal is for your payment. You can check that onto your bank statement, or if you have a prepaid card, whatever which way you're making your payments on your debit card, you can look at and log in, and you can see to make sure that transaction's with it, and it was your transaction. But let me run this by you, Gary. You're talking about just one credit card with this scenario, paying it on the 15th, they report on the 11th, but you don't have to pay it to the 25th. What if you had 5 accounts? 5 different accounts that you're paying on, and they all report on different days to the credit bureau. Not everybody reports on the 11th of the month. They may report on the 17th. One may do it on the 9th. One may do it on the 3rd, based upon your creditors, not based upon everybody that has a Capital One or Chase. It's built into who you are in your regional area. So you would have to basically find out from each one of them and know that the very last one that reports, as long as all the other ones are paid up to date on where your balances need to be at versus your high credit, on the very last one that reports, then you want to have your credit pulled from that point to that other point in order to be able to have a maximized score. So you got to kind of keep up with all of it. And we know that information because in ScoreNavigator, we request that information from the credit bureau when we get the credit data. We know per individual when their creditors report, and we show that in our target score simulator. So if you're trying to find a certain score, you know, if I on my monthly bills this month, you put that target score in, you click a button, it shows you how much you should pay on each one of those particular accounts, and if you pay them and you follow those instructions, it will tell you this is the day, if you're going to have your credit pulled, this is the day you want to have it done because everything will be updated to the bureaus and your score will be maximized. So you can do that on your own, but it's built into the ScoreNavigator system. You
have pointed out in the past that one of the reasons why people have trouble correcting the problem is you just think about the volume that is generated by the amount of credit that people have. And so, you know, you use yourself as an example. You got umpity-ump accounts with 2 or 3 credit cards that you're making payments. And you've said often on this show, almost every time, you've never seen a credit report that's 100% accurate ever since you've been in business ever. And so, yeah, there are going to be errors. And then comes the question, okay, I have found an error in my credit report. Then how do I go about getting that corrected? Boy, that's like finding a needle in a haystack and getting it corrected. I mean, we've all seen reports on 60 Minutes and on 2020 about people trying to get something corrected on their credit report. Tough to do.
Oh, it's getting harder and harder right now because, well, you know, it's always the blame game. You know, the credit bureaus, they take responsibility because they host the data, but then the data comes from the creditor. So the creditor is downscaling, so that's the least of their worries of when they send the information over. And then you have the credit repair companies. And so then the credit repair companies are just sending out these stupid letters that go to the credit bureaus saying certain things about those accounts. You've hired these companies out to do that. So now the credit repair companies are blaming the U.S. postal system. They're saying that the mail is slow now. They're talking about cutting back on the mail. They don't know whether or not the people have received the mail at the credit bureau. Then the credit bureau gets it. They know that they're looking at stuff that has no real explanation about what's wrong with the account. It goes to there, it goes to there. Money's being spent, time's being wasted when you can actually utilize the services that are provided for you either through a company or by yourself, just by logging into your accounts, logging in, making sure your transactions are correct, and then matching it up to what the credit bureau's data is. It's real simple. Most errors that are going to cost you on your credit score is your high credit's not being reported correctly. Well, you can go online and you can get a copy of what your credit limit is, correct? And so if you furnish that information to the credit bureau yourself, then what's going to happen? They're going to put your real credit limit in there because they're obligated by different sections of the Fair Credit Reporting Act to make sure that information is being reported correctly. And so there you go. Boom. That takes care of a major bad reporting error. And your balances. So if you know that your balances are going to have to be paid at a certain time in order for them to be reported, then you make sure that that happens. So then that eliminates that problem. You got to look at your date of last activity. You can't have that card, Gary, and have it sit on the shelf and not use it because part of your credit scoring is activity. So you can charge something and pay it. Now, one of the things that some people have in their mind is that they can only pay once a month. You can pay 10 times a month on your credit card. You can go right online, make a payment. There's no minimum payment. You may have a minimum payment that's due from the origination, but you can make several different payments throughout the month. You just want to make sure you hit the most amount of money you're going to pay over the minimum before they report to the Bureau. Then you can make other payments along the way, and then it'll session for the next time they report.
And, of course, the credit card companies, they're not going to tell you that because, hell, they only want you to make the minimum payment. That's how they make their money.
That's how they make their money, and then but as soon as you don't make that payment, then that's where the severity is on your score dropping. I've seen somebody miss a $20 credit card payment and their score drops 76 points.
Wow.
It takes better than a year to recover that. Now, if
oh, my goodness.
You pay on a $400,000 loan and you miss your house payment for 2 or 3 payments, it recovers in less than 6 months. It's recoverable on the amount of points, and you don't lose 76 points by missing that payment. It's built on that revolving because it's something that we choose up to a certain limit, and we choose above a minimum of what we can pay each month. So we're actually controlling our own destiny with it. And so you got to be really careful. You got to have the discipline that we've talked about before on that usage. Use it because it's convenient. You're not walking around with cash, but know that you have the cash to back it up for that purchase. So even if you're an impulsive buyer, you may say, this is going to be $200 and I can only apply $150 towards it if I had the cash in my pocket. That's what I have in the bank to put towards that.
Rusty,
and when you do, use the card and go home and pay that right away. Don't wait.
Rusty, I've often heard this as well. Let's say that I've got a credit card payment due on the 15th, but I'm slow on paying. I don't pay it until the 18th. I've heard it's just as bad paying late as it is missing a payment. Is that true?
Oh, it's the same thing. You're getting calculated on it, and then it depends on when they're forgiving. Remember, when do they report to the Bureau? So you may get lucky and they don't count it as late because of the session, but it may appear. A lot of the creditors are getting a little bit more forgiving if it's a one-time thing. If you just pick up the phone and you call them and say, hey, it kind of just slipped my mind, and I didn't prepare myself for it. It wasn't I didn't have the money, it just slipped my mind. Well, that's why you want to set this stuff up online, Gary, because you can set future payments where it will calculate and always take the minimum. Always take the minimum that's due at whatever date that you schedule it for. So if you schedule it for, as long as it's before the due date, if you schedule it when you know they're going to report a day or two before that, just have them automatically just take it. It takes away all the busy life that we have and the 6 or 7 hours people spend on social media a day, where they forget about it. I think if you get out a way to make your payments, by being on Facebook, and you could just pay your creditor from there, and Facebook will probably, hear this and put that in their system, then, everybody's payments will always be made on time.
That's the app you need to come up with. You write a lot. There you go. Every time somebody goes to Facebook, it automatically checks to make sure that all of their credit payments are up to date. There you go.
Or they can go to ScoreNavigator.com and they can go in there. And we've already got it built in there. And it lets you know when your payments are due and when they report. And you can just play games in there.
We're going to take a break, but when we come back, I want to go back to something that you said, because I think you see ads on television, you hear them on the radio for these companies to say, let us do something that you can't do for yourself. Let us help you repair your credit. And there are a blue million credit repair companies. You're in the business. I want to find out and get your opinion on, are they worth the money? And we'll find out right after these messages.
Heart disease, joint pain, allergies, eye care. The list of health needs we're faced with goes on and on. But it's comforting to know there is one healthcare practice in the Midlands with the expertise to take complete care of you. University Specialty Clinics. Only at University Specialty Clinics will you find a team of 200 doctors who are expert physicians and world-class medical educators. Whether you need a simple physical exam or need complete complex medical treatment, you can trust the doctors at University Specialty Clinics to take special care of you for life. Call 255-3400 for an appointment. That number again, 255-3400. University Specialty Clinics is owned and operated by the University of South Carolina School of Medicine, where we practice what we teach.
Our policy is taking care of South Carolina. Leon Jones Insurance. We're from South Carolina like you. Neighbors and friends through and through. Our policy is taking the time to give you the service you expect to find. Our policy is taking care of South Carolina. Leon Jones Insurance.
With locations in Columbia and Batesburg, Leesville, call 790-5600. That's 790-5600 for a quote.
When credit scoring was introduced into the marketplace in the mid-90s, who really knew the impact it would have on our lives today? The 3-digit number determines the rate of financing we get on our home and auto loans, insurance rates, and even employment. But do you know how your credit score is calculated, and is it accurate? Do you know what to do to raise your credit score or change errors in your credit report? ScoreNavigator.com at just $19.95 a month not only gives you the most accurate credit score in the industry, it will tell you how to increase your credit score. Listen to information about you and your credit on the 4th Wednesday of the month from 1 to 1:30 right here on Health, Wealth, and Happiness.
And that would be today, and Rusty Bizet is giving us those answers. And Rusty, I asked you before the break to weigh in on credit repair companies. Are they worth our time and money?
That's a good question, and I want to be careful because there's so many of them that are out there. So I'm gonna put this back on to the listeners. What a credit repair company does is they look at whatever negative items that are on your credit report that may or may not be yours. Typically, there's something that you ran into some problems with somewhere down the road, but you've recovered. Now, what they do is they send letters to each one of the credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion, and they're stating that those accounts never belong to you. They put your name on it, they put it in an envelope, and then they put a stamp on it, and then they mail it to the credit bureaus. Now, the credit bureaus at that point, now they have a new system in place. So let's say that credit repair company is in Colorado, but you live in South Carolina. Because it's stamped from Colorado, the credit bureau knows that it came from a credit repair company, that it didn't come from you in South Carolina. And so because of that, they don't even go into any investigation on your credit. So you're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. So now some of the credit repair companies are saying, look, you pay us, and then what we're going to do is we're going to send you the letter, then you mail the letter out from where you're at, and that way it's stamped properly, and they'll go into the investigation. Well, you can go online and just type in credit repair letters, and you can get them for free, and you can just copy them. And they're not worth the paper that it's printed on because the credit bureaus aren't acknowledging those type of things. So the answer is, should you pay a company to repair your credit or fix your credit, or should you not? What should you do, Gary?
Well, based upon what you say and what I've seen on 60 Minutes in 2020, save your time and energy. It may be frustrating, but you're not going to get it fixed because the companies, the credit bureaus, aren't set up to do anything about it. And as we spoke earlier, the volume is just overwhelming. They're not going to do a thing about it. I mean, you can just rant and rave and send all kinds of threatening letters, and there have been lawsuits brought, but it still doesn't fix the problem.
No, you can, if you keep up with your stuff, because remember, data is being reported incorrectly. And so in any of your negative credits being reported incorrectly. But if you just focusing on saying that it doesn't belong to you when it does, it can belong to you, but because of the balances or the high credit on that or the age of the account, there's certain other factors that are provable, then you can get those things taken care of. Now, we talk about ScoreNavigator, but our other product, Credit DNA, is a credit financial management. So they show you those things, but the relationships with the credit bureaus are things that are done electronically where we can point out those errors. They know we have the programming to do that, and we can send information to them. They send it back to us. We have it updated. We're not mailing out any letters. We're not doing any of those kind of things that credit repair companies do because it's just not effective. And it's something you can basically do on your own. And I'm not saying that Credit DNA has the hold on, you can't do what Credit DNA does on your own. You can, but you've got to be willing to put the time and the effort in, and you've got to really know what you're doing. So you're going to be taught what to do, so if these things come about again, you're going to be able to handle it on your own. You're going to be able to handle it with confidence, and you will get the credit bureaus to respond and update your accounts properly, and you'll be able to maintain and manage a healthy credit life and a healthy financial life.
That's not to say that there aren't going to be miscalculations or misinformation in the future. It's an ongoing problem. It's been a problem for 30 years. It ain't going to go away tomorrow or anytime soon. It's a part of the animal.
It is, Gary, and I haven't seen any change in it in 33 years, and God willing, I live another 33 years. I won't see any other changes in it. It's just a system that when you're having to host over 1 billion credit files a day, and you're dealing with human beings that are sending information over and recording it, and then you have people that actually have issues that are going on with their credit, good or bad, it's a system that will never be perfected.
Rusty, for those people who are interested in getting your service for $19.95, ScoreNavigator.com. That's the answer.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you for